Even Clinton knew Biden couldn't handle the job.
You said yes to Secretary Clinton. What were the nature of those conversations?
And afterwards, she took me aside for a conversation and said, look, he's got a big political problem.
During a testimony before the House Oversight Committee, Ron Klain revealed what many political operatives thought about Biden's mental decline. And most had seen the signs long before it became public.
And then in the summer of 24, Mr. Sullivan's view that he didn't think that the president could win re-election, or?
Apparently, yes.
So today, we're covering it all. If you believe the truth isn't partisan, hit that subscribe button and let's jump right into it.
Mr. Klain, I'm going to ask a broad question that's yes or no right now, and then we can dive into details if there are any yeses. And it's between 2019 and present, have you had any communications, meaning in-person calls, texts, anything, with the following list of people regarding President Biden's ability to be president of the United States? First Lady Biden?
No.
Hunter Biden?
No.
Vice President Harris?
No.
Second Gentleman Emhoff?
Not to recall, no.
President Obama?
No.
Mr. Rahm Emanuel?
Yes.
Mr. Bill Daley?
No.
Mr. Jake Sullivan?
Yes.
Miss Anita Dunn?
No.
Mr. Mike Donlin?
Not to recall, no.
Mr. Bruce Reed?
Not to recall, no.
Mr. Steve Ricchetti?
I would have discussed with Steve the political fallout of the debate, but Steve did not express to me the view that he thought the president was incapable of being president.
Miss O'Malley Dillon?
Same answer for Ms. O'Malley Dillon.
For context, the gentleman being questioned is Ron Klain, Biden's former chief of staff. He left the administration in 2023, but helped the former president for the debate with Trump, as he had overseen debate prep for every Democratic presidential candidate since 2004. So he wasn't part of the inner circle that ran things behind the scenes. However, one book detailed the struggles Klain faced during the process. For instance, he encountered things like Biden leaving preparation and falling asleep by the pool. He didn't really understand what the argument was on inflation. And more importantly, had nothing to say about a second term other than finish the job. What's worse is that after seeing this disaster unfold before his eyes, Ron reportedly was telling Joe to stay in the race. Now that the background is clear, let's hear what party insiders were saying behind the scenes.
You said yes to Secretary Clinton. What were the nature of those conversations?
Secretary Clinton was present at this event I did in Aspen, where I was, where a number of people were saying that President Biden should step aside. And afterwards, she took me aside for a conversation and said, look, he's got a big political problem. You need to find a better way to address this than you did. I said, I understand. She did not say to me she thought the president was incapable of governing. It was all about politics. But she said that, you know, the sentiment in the room was a common sentiment among donors, at least, and among politically influential people, and Biden campaign was doing an inadequate job of addressing it.
And again, if I mischaracterize your testimony today, that sounds similar to how you felt at the time, that it was a political problem, not a governing problem.
Yes.
The event Ron is mentioning here likely refers to the 2024 Aspen Security Forum, which took place just days before Biden stepped aside. Politico ran an article on it, and this summed things up in a single sentence. Senior, current, and former officials, diplomats, and lawmakers have concluded that Biden's refusal to step aside is a threat to the U.S. and its allies. What makes this more important is that the forum is hosted by a major left-leaning think tank, and as the Washington Free Beacon described it, helps deep-pocketed donors influence Congress. But on Klain's testimony, it sounds like both he and Hillary weren't concerned about a small group of unelected officials running the show. They were worried about how it might look and how it might hurt them in the election. That kind of mindset is the real issue here. Voters elect a president to lead, not to sit back while a roster of aides quietly takes control.
You said yes to Mr. Emanuel. What were the nature of those conversations?
Well, one of the people who was most outspoken in that Aspen meeting about the president's age was his brother, Ari, who had been President Trump's agent. And Ari had heckled me essentially from the stage. And so I called Ron to say, what So gone with your brother? And he said, well, RA just thinks Biden should step aside.
You said yes to Jake Sullivan. What were the nature of those conversations?
In the summer of 2024, after the debate, the NATO summit was here in Washington, and there was public reporting that the president's performance at the NATO summit had been uneven. So I called Jake to ask him if that was true or not. And Jake said the meeting had been a difficult one, that the allies weren't all aligned, and that the president had sometimes been effective, sometimes ineffective in getting them in line. But in the end, the president had gotten the job done. The allies had agreed on a plan for going forward on Ukraine. The allies had agreed to make more of a contribution if the U.S. pulled back, and it ended well.
It was so successful that European leaders rushed to justify Biden's endless gaffes, where he introduced Zelensky as President Putin and referred to Kamala as Vice President Trump. After the summit, most foreign media didn't even focus on policy outcomes. They zeroed in on Biden's clear mental decline. But even while the entire world watched, top aides kept insisting everything is fine. The level of delusion was unreal, and whether it was about protecting their positions or something completely else entirely, they stuck to that same script. And even now, they're still doing it. Just look at how Ron responded after being pressed on the conversation with Sullivan.
Did Mr. Sullivan express to you that the lack of effectiveness from the president in that meeting had anything to do with the president's ability to conduct his job?
No, he did not raise any concern about the president's ability to govern. He did raise the concern that he thought that it would be hard for the president to get reelected.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
That if the president wasn't more able to fluidly handle these allies, did he have the political skills to succeed in a campaign that was already in trouble at that point in time?
When in 2022, when the invasion first happened, was the president able to handle the allies?
He did very successfully.
And then in the summer of 24, Mr. Sullivan's view that he didn't think that the president could win re-election, or
he didn't think the president had been as effective as he had been in the past, and said, it will be hard for him to win re-election this way.
Because he was now less effective than he was in 2022.
Apparently, yes.
Okay.
He's just dancing around the issue, using his words in a not-so-effective way, and refusing to admit the obvious. And he's not alone. Most of the former aides who testified before the committee followed the same pattern. For instance, Steve Ricchetti claimed that the former president was fully capable. Karine Jean-Pierre shared a similar sentiment and said during an interview with The Guardian, "Of course he's aged. I've aged. We've all aged. His mental acuity for me never, ever came into question. I always thought this man was more than fit to serve." It's clear that there was more going on behind the scenes, and these top aides should have been held accountable for their actions. But let me know your thoughts in the story. Don't forget to like and subscribe. By the way, we just launched our merch store. It's amazing. You're gonna love it. And every purchase helps us continue bringing you stories the media tries to bury. So make sure you go check it out. And remember, keep thinking.